They didn't call it a base. Evans didn't like that word. Bases implied permanence, supply lines, paperwork. What they had was a forward control camp, temporary by design, movable in under an hour if needed. Tents spaced with intention. Vehicles positioned for exit, not defense. Nothing clustered. Nothing wasted. Sergeant Mark Talley stood at the edge of the perimeter with a clipboard that had already been rained on twice and stained with diesel. He liked it that way. Told him where he'd been. Patrol Alpha back in, one of the men said quietly. Talley nodded and made a mark. No check mark. No flourish. Just a line. How many today? The man asked. 2 walkers. 1 armed traveler. Talley paused. And a rumor. The man grimaced. They're all rumors. Some stick, Talley said. Across the camp, Evans spoke with another squad leader. No raised voices. No pointing. Just listening. Asking. Correcting when needed. Men leaned in when he spoke, not out of fear but habit. Talley had served under loud officers before. Men who thought authority came from volume. Evans wasn't one of them. Road trap worked, the squad leader said. Didn't fire unless we had to. Evans nodded. Good. Ammunition's currency now. So is restraint. Talley watched the man they'd brought in, Hondo, sitting near the fire ring, flexing his hands like he was feeling for fractures that weren't there. He didn't look broken. Didn't look scared either. That one's trouble, one of the younger men muttered. Talley shook his head. No. Trouble's loud. The younger man frowned. Then what is he? Talley thought a moment. A problem that hasn't decided yet. The radios crackled softly as another patrol checked in. Road clear. No resistance. 1 vehicle turned back after spotting the warning markers. Good. That meant the message was spreading. Evans had been clear from the beginning. Control the roads, and you control the choices. You didn't need to block every path. Just enough that people started thinking twice. Talley flipped a page on the clipboard. What about hot springs? The man beside him lowered his voice. Word is folks are starting to gather. No leader yet. Just scared people. Scared people turn violent fast, Talley said. Evans knows. Talley watched Evans again. The man was calm but not soft. He'd ordered 3 men turned away that morning, armed, desperate, unwilling to follow direction. Let them walk. Watch them disappear down the road. One of the soldiers had questioned it. Evans' answer had been simple. Dead men teach nothing. Talley respected that. A truck rumbled somewhere beyond the trees, slow, deliberate. A patrol moving markers farther down the road, expanding the net without making it obvious. This ain't the army, the younger man said quietly. Not really. Talley finally looked at him. No, it's worse. How? Army has rules handed down from people you never meet, Talley said. This. He gestured to the camp. This is rules we make ourselves. Across the fire ring, Hondo lifted his head slightly, eyes tracking movement like a man who already knew how to read a perimeter. Talley made another mark on the clipboard. Problem. Not yet hostile. Not yet friendly. Evans walked past, stopping beside Talley. Status. Evans asked. Controlled, Talley said. For now. Evans followed his gaze to Hondo. Everyone's controlled until they aren't. He moved on, already thinking about the next road. The next decision. The next person who would have to choose between order and freedom, and learn they couldn't have both. Behind him, the camp settled back into its quiet rhythm. Not waiting. Preparing. Evans stood over a map laid across the hood of a truck, corners held down with rocks. It wasn't detailed. Didn't need to be. Roads were roads. Choices narrowed the same way everywhere. People are still testing us, he said, calm, almost conversational. Driving just far enough to see if the markers are real. Walking back when they decide they don't like the answer. Talley nodded. They are learning. Not fast enough. Evans tapped a finger on the map. 1 point, then another. I want a demonstration. Nothing sloppy. No bodies unless they force it. A few men exchanged looks. What kind? One asked. Evans didn't look up. The kind that travels. Talley understood. Road control. Selective, Evans said. 1 vehicle. 1 message. He straightened and looked toward the fire ring where Hondo sat, quiet, watching everything without appearing to. Before we do that, Evans continued, tell me again about the truck. Talley shifted his weight. Older Dodge. Power wagon. White but not clean. Lifted some. Brush guard welded, not factory. Winch. Mud tires on steel wheels. Evans nodded slowly. Driver. Male. Mid-30s to 40s. Calm under pressure. Didn't run blind. Didn't freeze either. Dog. Evans asked. Big one. White. Guardian type. Evans was quiet for a moment. That truck stood out, Tally said. Not flashy. Purpose-built. Looked like it belonged on a back road, not the highway. Evans' eyes stayed on the trees. And then you lost it. Yes, sir. Explain. Tally exhaled through his nose. Night fell fast. He took a dirt turnoff that wasn't on the old county maps. Woods closed in. No lights. No engine noise after that. Smart, Evans said. Most people drive like they want to be seen. He didn't, Tally agreed. Truck vanished. Like it had been swallowed. Evans nodded once. Until it wasn't. Tally's jaw tightened. He came back out near the old quarry road. Slower. More cautious. Like he knew he was being watched. And that's when the trap closed, Evans said. Yes, sir. Evans looked back toward Hondo. The man hadn't moved, but his attention was sharp now. Listening without looking like he was. He circled, Evans said quietly. Didn't blunder in. That's why he's alive. Tally hesitated. Sir, about the demonstration. Evans turned. We'll use the same road. Same markers. Same discipline. And if someone pushes back. Evans' expression didn't change. Then everyone watching learns what pushing back costs. Tally nodded. Understood. Evans took one last look at the woods beyond the camp. The power wagon tells me there are people out there who know how to disappear. That won't last. He folded the map. Make it visible, he said. Make it calm. And make sure whoever sees it understands this isn't chaos. Tally gave a short nod. Order. Evans started walking away, then stopped. And Sergeant, he said. No mistakes. Tally met his eyes. None. Across the camp, Hondo leaned back slightly, eyes half-lidded, listening to engines being checked and radios tested. He knew that sound. Preparation, not panic. Somewhere out on the road, something was about to happen. And whatever Evans planned, it wasn't meant for Hondo. It was meant for everyone else. The markers were wrong. Cheyenne noticed it first. They were driving slow, windows cracked, the road ahead empty in a way that felt staged. Old construction cones sat half-buried along the shoulder, spray-painted arrows pointing nowhere useful. A length of yellow tape fluttered between two trees like someone had tried, and failed, to block the road days ago. This wasn't here yesterday, she said. Dylan eased off the gas. No, they didn't stop. Didn't turn around either. Just rolled forward, cautious now, eyes moving. That's when the truck appeared. Not charging. Not blocking the road head-on. Just there, pulled sideways across the far end of the straight, engine idling, hood up like it had broken down at the worst possible place. Two men stood beside it. Relaxed. Too relaxed. Dylan slowed to a crawl. Another vehicle eased out from the trees behind them. Quiet. Diesel. No lights. Cheyenne's stomach dropped. Dylan. I see it. The men by the truck didn't raise weapons. Didn't shout. One of them raised a hand, not a wave, just a signal, and the road ahead came alive. Men stepped out from the tree line on both sides. Not rushing. Not spreading wide. Just enough to make it clear there was no space left. This ain't a robbery, one of them called out. His voice carried easy. Practiced. Y'all can keep your hands where they are, and nobody gets hurt. Dylan stopped the truck. The man walked closer, boots crunching gravel. He glanced inside, eyes moving quick, faces, hands, seats. You armed? The man asked. Dylan shook his head. No, sir. The man nodded, like that was the right answer. Good. Then this'll go smooth. Behind him, another man dragged something heavy from the roadside and set it in the center of the pavement. A road sign. Bent. Shot through. Still readable. Road closed. The man produced a pistol, not pointing it at them, just holding it loose, and fired once into the sign. The crack echoed down the trees. Birds exploded into the air. Cheyenne flinched despite herself. Listen up, the man said, voice steady. This road's under control now. You turn around, you go home, and you don't come back this way. You tell folks what you saw. You don't test it. He stepped back. Another man waved them on. Turn it around. Dylan didn't argue. He backed up slow, heart pounding, then turned the truck around under their eyes. No one followed. No one rushed. They watched until the trees swallowed the road again. Only then did Dylan let out the breath he'd been holding. They didn't want us, Cheyenne said quietly. No, Dylan agreed. They wanted us to see it. The farmhouse felt crowded in a way it never had before. Too many people, too many voices, too many opinions circling the same empty space where Hondo should have been. They gathered around the kitchen table again, like doing it often enough might turn it into a command center instead of what it really was. A place where bad news kept landing. Tony leaned against the counter, arms crossed, jaw tight. Ramona sat with her hands folded around a chipped mug that had long since gone cold, eyes distant but alert. Cheyenne stood near the doorway, restless. Dylan paced once, then forced himself to sit. Dink hovered, not quite sure where he belonged, Joyce steady beside him like an anchor. Atlas lay just inside the door, head up, watching Annie more than anyone else. She's right, Tony said, breaking the silence. They're not random. Evans doesn't do random. Every move's meant to shape behavior. Yeah, but shape it how? Dylan shot back. We can't fight that. Not head on. No one's talking about fighting, Tony said. Then what are we talking about? Cheyenne asked. Because sitting here ain't doing a damn thing. Voices overlapped for a moment, ideas that weren't really ideas. Stay put. Lay low. Watch the roads. Don't draw attention. All of it circled the same truth, without touching it. They didn't know what they were planning against. And Annie hadn't said a word. She stood at the window again, hands braced on the sill, staring out across the field. The light was fading, the sky taking on that dull, heavy gray that came before rain. Or worse. Hondo would know, Dylan said quietly. The words weren't meant to hurt. They did anyway. Annie's shoulders stiffened. Just a little. He'd tell us what mattered, Joyce added gently. What to watch for. That was it. Annie turned away from the window. Her face held together for half a second, long enough that everyone thought she was fine. Then it broke. I need him, she said, voice cracking hard on the word need. Not want. Not miss. Need. I don't know how to do this without him. She tried to keep going. Tried to breathe through it. Didn't work. He always knows what to do, Annie said, tears spilling now, hands curling into fists at her sides. When things get bad, when they don't make sense, he makes them make sense. And he's just gone. She dragged a hand across her face, angry at herself for shaking. We don't even know where he is. If he's hurt. If he's... Her voice collapsed entirely. Ramona was on her feet instantly, crossing the room and pulling Annie into her arms without asking. Annie didn't resist. She folded into her, knees buckling just enough that Tony had to step in and steady them both. I can't sleep, Annie sobbed into Ramona's shoulder. Every sound, every truck, I think it's him. And then it's not. And I keep thinking if I just wait long enough he'll walk up that drive like nothing happened. Tony looked away, swallowing hard. Cheyenne's eyes burned, jaw set, helpless fury simmering just beneath the surface. Dink stared at the floor, hat twisting in his hands. He didn't leave you, he said softly. That man wouldn't. I know, Annie said. That's what scares me. Atlas rose and pressed against her legs, head nudging insistently, a low sound in his chest, not a whine, not a bark. Annie sank down, wrapping an arm around his neck, gripping his thick fur like it was the only solid thing left. I need my husband, she whispered. More than I ever have. No one spoke after that. There was nothing to fix. No plan to make. Just grief laid bare in the middle of the room, raw and undeniable. When Annie finally pulled herself together, wiping her face, her eyes were red but clear. I'm not saying we go looking for a fight, she said. And I'm not saying we do something stupid. She looked at each of them, in turn. But I'm done just waiting. Ramona nodded slowly. Tony met Annie's eyes and held them. Then we start learning, Tony said. Quiet. Careful. Watchin', Ramona added. Annie rested her hand on Atlas's head, steadying herself. And if Hondo's out there, Annie said, voice firm despite the tears still clinging to it, we make damn sure he's got something to come back to. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Not bringing answers. Just reminding them the world wasn't stopping for their pain. Waiting, Annie understood now, wasn't strength anymore. It was something she'd outgrown.